Soccer.
Oh, I
Hello
need.
again, and welcome to another episode of the Fun Fans Podcast. I'm your host, James Dillard. With me, as always, my co-host Bailey Jackson. How you doing, Bailey?
I'm good, James. Go Tigers! Another win.
Go Tigers! We're on a roll, baby. We have a great show. We're going to celebrate yet another victory, and we're going to celebrate being bowl eligible today. So that's a big deal, especially this year. Hadn't had that kind of thing be a big deal lately, but we've had plenty of other seasons where that is a big deal because it is in college football. There's some other great games we'll be able to talk about, and we may start talking about a little parenting. We may wait till Wednesday on that one, but we're going to give you our fun, not fun list from this past Saturday. But first, the Fun Fans are a proud part of the Fanboys Fangirls Sports Podcasting Network. If you're a true sports fan, the Fanboys Fangirls is perfect for you. Find various nationwide podcasts and other sports media at thefanboys.com and on all forms of social media. The Fun Fans Podcast is the official podcast for Clemson fans.
And let's don't forget about Rubens Food, Sports, Spirits, and Catering. They have some great wings at both locations, 1083 Batesville Road in Greer and 11028 Anderson Road in Piedmont. Well, what have they added to their menu, James?
They have added Southwest egg rolls. If you're listening on the podcast, you got to see those things are really good.
I'm not a huge South. I like my egg rolls to be like Asian, not Southwest because I love egg rolls. I love egg rolls.
Love,
But yeah,
love the
Rubens,
Southwest egg
it's a
roll.
great place to eat, especially after the game, after a big W. So check them out at those
That's
two
right.
locations.
That's right. All right. Before we get started, well, we're starting. This is what we're starting with. We're starting with pointing out how great a job, once again, Clemson did with Military Appreciation Night. Our boy Huckabee sang the national anthem and killed it. Clover
Blackman,
grad, right?
Blackman was awesome. He's probably gonna be on American Idol one of these days, and he's a great guy, and he's been on this podcast, and he knocked it out of the park.
He did really well.
In football uniform. So way to go,
Yep.
Blackman.
Full uniform. If you hadn't seen it, you can check it out on Clover High School's Chorus Facebook page, and you shared it, or at least you shared a picture.
Oh
but
gosh.
I'm sure it's in plenty of places. So go ahead and check that out. But like we said, Bailey, another huge W for the Tigers, and it's always a huge win. Any conference win, any wins big, especially it's more. One thing this year, hopefully, is that we teach people not to take things for granted. We talk about being bowl eligible. You can't take a W and being bowl eligible for granted. Those are things that have to be earned. You have to go out there, you have to work, and you have to earn them. So it's a big deal. And not to push too much shade, I guess, towards Georgia Tech's way, but it kind of turned into a little bit of a butt whooping.
No, listen, I've said this all year. We've talked about injuries, we talked about being young. All right. The players that made plays yesterday are coming back. And that's all the announcers on television talked about because I watched the game again yesterday afternoon.
Yes.
And sometimes you have young teams, they have to learn how to win. And look, I am in a good place with Clemson football because
Hey,
you better be ready. They loading up, getting ready, and they have some more coming in too, buddy.
If
Trust me.
Clemson is stock, Dabo said last
Get it
week, you better
now.
buy it now. And so far, that seems to be showing up on the field. I watched the game, so a not fun fan experience was I developed a pretty bad headache that didn't go away, and I got into the valley and I was done. I was like, you can imagine being in there with that noise and a headache that's aggravating.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
you tweeted that we looked like we were still celebrating the Notre Dame win like 10 minutes into a football game.
Not even 10 minutes.
I know,
Probably
man.
not even 10 minutes. I was not in the mood for us coming out
I mean, did you
slow or whatever.
You know how it goes.
But hey, I watched the game. I
We
watched the
killed
game
them.
this afternoon, and you know what? At least is what it looked like to me, right? It looked like we were making coaching adjustments. I don't want to say on the fly, but as needed, and that was. I ain't gonna. That just seems different. Maybe it's not different. but that seems different. It's like normally we wait till halftime or something. But
Well,
and the
I
other thing
really
is,
think that goes along with being young. It's hard to do that
yes,
with younger players.
that's very
Right.
likely. So it seems like we're growing up a little bit as a, you know, not just the young kids, the new staff, and the two
No, it's
together.
awesome.
So
They're going to be good.
it's it's all good. And but yeah, I wasn't feeling it in multiple ways those first couple of series, but their defensive front, they got some big boys. Now, I think they probably got a little tired, just like any other defensive front does. And, but so that's no surprise for them to hold us up a little bit, especially at the beginning, give them a little bit of credit. But I like the adjustments. Obviously, they seem to work. We came out in the second half. We've talked on here about, are we going to come out with a little more two back set? That seemed to be the thing the second half until Shipley gets hit in the head again. Did you see that?
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I don't know, a odd coincidence that it seems Shipley's and they're getting hit in the head and they're not calling it, but that's a mess. But
Well,
Cade is
they
not
missed it.
scared. Yeah. Well, they missed it. So I don't know. Cade is not scared to throw that ball in a needle.
No,
And that's
what's the guy's name? Lewis Riddick, that was calling the game, the color guy, the color commentator,
yeah.
Lewis Riddick. He's a former NFL executive, like GM.
Mm-hmm.
All right, he played in the NFL. He's worked in the front office of NFL teams, and he was the color commentator. And they kept talking about how Cade Klubnik, when he was elite, he was really elite. And then he makes some bad decisions in other games. But hey, he's got all the tools, man. He's got all the tools. He's not as tall as Deshaun and Trevor, but you know what? He made some great throws yesterday.
He made some great throws, and it's a game of inches.
Yep.
And like you've said, like we've said, the team's young, and as they've matured, hopefully it'll stay this way. But those thread and the needle throws, you got a game of inches, some more of them being tipped, more of them being picked off than the past couple of games. Yesterday there was more of them being caught for touchdowns and stuff. So
yeah,
it's just going to get better and better, kind of zoning in on everything. That pass to, was it Huckabee in the end zone?
No,
I mean, that thing was a bullet. Brenningstool.
Listen,
Huckabee, he sang the national anthem.
The one he threw to Sapp, that's another guy that hadn't played much. Sapp back up tight end because Ennis got hurt, and he threw a dime down the middle.
Yes.
But here's the thing: the Clemson defense has been pretty good all year.
All year, right? Pretty good.
Right? Yeah, but understand this: the guys that are making plays are true freshmen.
Yes.
Okay, except Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Barrett Carter was out. Woodaz is underclassman. So I'm just telling you.
Ain't one of our safeties a freshman as well?
Yeah, the pick six was a true freshman.
You got
the unbelievable interception was a true freshman. That's AJ Terrell's brother. Yeah. So, boy, it's gonna be fun. And see, they have these guys now. They can play everybody on the roster because if you play in less than 4 games, you can redshirt, and they're planning on redshirting people. And if you go back and watch the game, which you probably won't again, Hannafin, who is a receiver from like Massachusetts, he is a great blocking receiver. They haven't thrown in the ball yet, but I'm telling you, those are the kind of people you need on your team. All right, I'm through.
Anything else? Anything else about the game?
No, we killed them. Georgia Tech's been rolling on offense.
They've been rolling.
Through 3 quarters when we had the starters in, nothing.
You want any stories about Yellow Jackets with your spray?
It is ironic because I had 2 Yellow Jacket nests I found this week, and I sprayed them down with everything I could throw at them, and I took care of those Yellow Jackets, and it was a precursor to what was going on in the Valley yesterday. Get you some of that.
All right, so we're going bowling. It's way too early though. I looked at some lists, and we talked about it on the way home, trying to figure out where we're going to go. That needs to be that's on the back burner for another week or two, don't you think?
Oh yeah, because I think Clemson has their hands full the last 2 games. I mean, you throw the records out for the last game, but next week Next week, North Carolina's really good on offense. And so, but I really I don't see us like moving backwards at this point.
No,
I just really don't. But the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl is on one projection.
good.
Who doesn't like some frosted flakes?
Love Frosted Flakes
Can't wait to do our best tasting bowl
podcast.
segment.
Yeah, that'll be I had to have some
The
graphics
other one
last
was
year.
the
That was
Gator
audio
Bowl.
only. The Gator Bowl we would have to win out to go to the Gator Bowls. What I've seen, but who
Well,
knows?
it's projected on ESPN right now after yesterday.
Oh,
But I
nice.
think they're probably saying that Clemson's going to win the last two games. But we'll see.
We shall see. Speaking of,
We go to El Paso, we're going to need some energy.
you're gonna need
We're
some
going to have to get some
energy. Dubby Energy. You can scan this QR code or go to dubby.gg and enter promo code FUNFANS for 10% off your Dubby Energy drink or your Dubby hydration mix.
And James,
All right.
that was a test. I did that totally out of order just to
Yes.
see if you were ready.
I have a mouse now.
Bam.
You used to not have a mouse.
That was pretty good.
Well, yeah. Okay. Thank you. All right. But backing up one step, though, you were supposed to. What's the deal with the ACC? Speaking of some standings and whatnot, we know Florida State's in.
Louisville plays at Miami this Saturday. If they win, they're in. Even if they lose, they're probably still in.
Right. Okay.
Because there's all these scenarios, but look, there are three teams that have two losses: North Carolina, NC State, and Virginia Tech, and Louisville only has one. Well, Louisville beat. They still have to play. They play one game at Miami, and then NC State, North Carolina obviously play the last game of the year. NC State and Virginia Tech play this week, so somebody's getting eliminated right there.
Right.
All right, and then North Carolina lost to Georgia Tech, and Louisville beat Georgia Tech, but then Louisville lost to Pitt, and North Carolina beat Pitt. So I don't know how it shakes out if they tie because they haven't played each other.
Yeah, that could be interesting. But if they beat Miami, they're in. And
if they lose, it's a done deal.
If they lose, then they're hoping that
they're still most likely in. They're hoping North Carolina loses one of their last two games.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. Because North Carolina State, or they need North Carolina State to lose one of these last two as well. So
no, they beat State too.
Okay. All right, so they got that one.
Yeah.
Very good. So it's more likely the Cardinals.
Yeah, they lost a close one to who did Pitt beat them somehow.
So speaking of North Carolina, a couple of other there were a couple other really good games. I got a little nap, so I was able to watch the lateness, the double overtime game with Duke, North Carolina. And I'm not really a fan of either team. I'm watching it because it was a good game. It was a close game, back and forth, teams going at it, well, whatever. But I'm telling you, there were at least 3, if not 4, major officiating blunders, talking about refs just missing stuff. Duke took a ball away it was a jump ball, and they come down, and the North Carolina guy has it when they jump. When they come down, it's like they're fighting over it, and then the Duke guy ends up with it.
Right.
And they didn't even review it or nothing. I mean, and that set up a touchdown or something. It was crazy. There was a couple of the 15-yard penalties that seemed to be – it was my interpretation, it wasn't like the officials were making bad calls. It just seemed like overall poor officiating.
It's hard. It's hard to officiate.
It is hard to officiate. On the 2-point conversion, this wasn't hard. There was an offensive lineman like 5 yards deep into the end zone.
I didn't see it because
on a pass play.
I woke up as that game was they were doing the highlights.
The commentator, and I know, like you say, they don't see everything, but there's a guy standing right in the middle of the defensive secondary. You don't see an offensive lineman running basically right towards where you're standing. I don't know.
No, he doesn't call that. The umpire calls that.
Well, I don't see how the umpire. I mean, that's once again, it's kind of right in the middle, but he was way deep. But whatever. I'm not, it was such a close game. You never know what would have happened, but I kind of hated that for the Duke Blue Devils, and from my perspective, that they seem to be constantly on the bad end of the bad calls the second half and overtime of that game. But it was a good game to watch. Missouri over Tennessee. Now, we said on the podcast Wednesday that was going to be one to watch because they were tight, like 13 and 14, kind of projecting into next year. Those folks will be right on the outside looking in of the playoffs. And
Right.
Missouri took Tennessee to the woodshed. I don't know what did you get to see any of that game?
Yeah, I watched some of that actually. It was. I mean, they just beat Tennessee.
Yeah.
I mean, Missouri's good. I think.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt.
But they whooped them. It was on the road. I mean, it's hard to play on the road.
It's hard to play on the road. It's hard to officiate.
It's hard to officiate. It's hard to play on the road.
Yeah, thanks to. Well, it's hard for Jim Harbaugh to.
Well, North Carolina gets calls in basketball and football, so there you go.
There you.
All right, here we
without a
go.
doubt. All right,
Jim
so
Harbaugh.
Michigan won, and I'm gonna go ahead and real quick. Like we watched the college football final, like we talked about before. They were picking on my man for getting emotional during the post game interview, the interim coach or the step in coach or whatever he is.
It
I'm
was
like,
a little over the top, James.
well, I don't care. That's like I don't know. They're picking on my man for it was it was
What?
Veterans Day. It was the first big game of the season for them, kind of thing. It was a huge build up, and he has to step in at the last minute. I mean, that's a emotional moment kind of thing. And they're going to literally just pick on him for doing that. I thought that was low class.
Okay. I wasn't going to pick on him. I thought it was a little over the top. He is a professional. They have broken major rules. I would have just said, hey, we played great today. Offense played great. Defense played great. I love these guys. Going to the locker room. But he starts crying and starts using profanity all over national television.
After thanking God, I thought that was a little weird.
Right. I mean, come on, man.
Well, did you see the segment how they just ragged him?
Yes,
I thought that was.
I kind of agreed with him.
Well, I thought it was low class, especially to be a national. Like they could have been professionals too, and
Joey Galloway was on there too. Okay, so he's an Ohio State guy. He said, "Are we really playing this again?"
Right. So anyway, as far as the game goes.
They beat Penn State. We know that. They're going to beat Penn State every year. Ohio State beats Penn State. Oh, Penn State fires their offensive coordinator today. They're like ranked 10th in the country or something. And they fire their offensive coordinator.
They were supposed to. So does this mean Michigan really is as good as some people think they are because they finally beat a team that's pretty good? Yeah, I don't.
Paul Feinbaum said he wasn't sold on them, but I'm not going to agree with anything he says. Anyway, until they get beat, yes, they are, because people had the same argument about Clemson when they were playing in the ACC, destroying people. Well, it turns out the ACC is really not that bad. Clemson was just really that good. All right.
Right. So what about what is this news? Do you know the background of the Harbaugh stuff?
Yeah, he's suspended now. That he's got a court date to tomorrow, maybe trying to get a restraining order.
But this did not come from the NCAA, right?
He can coach during the week.
He just can't go to the game.
I think it came from the Big Ten Conference, didn't it?
Right. I think it did. Are they still waiting on? Is that to try to avoid anything from the NCAA?
I guess. I honestly, I just saw it pop up on ESPN Friday afternoon. I was so busy I didn't look into it, and frankly, it doesn't bother me. They got caught cheating, and now they're trying to figure out how they can go less penalty while still getting a penalty.
Yeah.
It's like, was it running into the kicker or was it roughing the kicker? Well, it looks pretty much like roughing the kicker to me.
Well, yeah, we'll see what happens with that. So, and another game that was happened yesterday is our friends in Columbia got another W against the Commodores. So, good luck to the Gamecocks for one more week, maybe.
Well, and then so it's going to come down. Let's say the Gamecocks beat Kentucky. They're going to be playing for bowl eligibility
when they play us.
And so I would almost rather be playing for bowl eligibility than not. Because if they're not, then it's like, who cares what happens? They could be running trick plays every other play and this and that. And so there would be absolutely nothing to lose at that point. But when you're playing for something, you kind of get a little tighter.
Right.
I don't think they block Clemson defensive line. I really don't. I mean, that's my honest football opinion.
Is that what happened?
Spencer Rattler is good.
Yeah, the year of the fight up in Clemson. I mean, they had nothing to play for. It was
it's just like that kind of stuff can happen.
Turned into a backyard
You would hope it wouldn't.
mess. All right, speaking of hoping it wouldn't, we have our updated, but not updated, the Fun Fans top 6. Mine hadn't, they all won. I'm just leaving them the same. Georgia's good. Georgia's exactly like what we said they are. And the way I described it, they're 2 scores better than whoever they play.
Yeah, they're good.
Ole Miss is good, and they said, okay, let me get 2 scores ahead of Ole Miss, and that was that pretty much. I like how Bailey's changes though. Bailey talk about yours.
I don't like boring. Number 1 team in the country is a tie between Georgia and Clemson.
Go Tigers.
All right, yeah, that's right. Number 2 team is Ohio State. Number 3 is Florida State. I put Michigan back in there because they actually have some sanctions against them now. I was boycotting. Number 5 is Washington, and then number 6 I have a tie. Oregon and James Madison. The Dukes are 10-0.
10-0.
Yeah, it's good for them. That's awesome.
All
and
right,
they get a shout out right here on this podcast.
Very good. We'll see how that compares to the committee coming up this Tuesday. All right, but then we'll look at it on Wednesday. All right, on to our fun, not fun segment of the week, and I have graphics to go with a few things. First of all, wait a minute, that's not the first thing was the fun. It was very fun honoring the military. I missed a lot of the stuff due to the headache, but I saw it when I watched the film. Clemson does a bang-up job honoring the military, and that is extremely fun. The not fun part is having a headache that won't go away in Death Valley. All right, so one thing's fun. Enjoying the fire pit at the tailgate. It's kind of nice, even though it's chilly. It's just keep you warm there.
We're kind of like rebellious because I'm pretty sure we're in the middle of a burn ban. But
it
did contained. Rain. It was raining.
Yeah, and it was very contained.
Yeah, it's not like we had a huge fire, but anyway.
But then the not fun part is having to use a porta-john that's like
a lean-to. You gotta be careful. You go in that one on the left.
Yeah. So once again, if you're listening to audio only, you got to check these pictures out. I mean,
it's like a 20-degree angle.
Let's put a little effort into finding some level ground, or put a little shimmy under there or something. I mean, maybe literally one's
2x4.
One's leaning on the other. So, did you use the? You want to hear the funny thing?
Sure.
Every time I went, I used the leaning one. I don't know if I did that on purpose.
I don't know. I don't keep up with which one I go into.
Anyway, another fun thing, and this is also a tip from Fun Fans, the professional tailgaters. It's always fun to keep your tailgate area clean. You should leave it cleaner than when you got there.
That's right. That's a good rule in general.
Good rule in general. That's right. Not fun is having to carry your trash bag hanging outside of your window as you're leaving campus. What in the world?
Well, they were okay till they picked up speed. Then they had to figure something out. They had to pull over at a church. They saw a trash can and put it in the trash can. So thanks for putting it in a proper receptacle, but you can leave it at your car.
Yeah, as long as it's in a trash bag,
right?
You can leave it at the tailgate, and they have folks that come around and get it. But yeah, you're right. That car got up to about 20, 25 miles an hour. That thing's about a 90-degree angle hanging out the window. That was
not a lot of aerodynamic properties to that bag either.
All right. So another bonus fun thing is seeing our boy, another former Fun Fan podcast guest, getting a little bit of the spotlight again. You may recognize this guy.
Sorry, written by God. And, just continue to lean on that. We go through trials throughout the season and know that, we find joy through it all. But just continue to lean on that and just come to work every day. You lean.
Carter back there doing the top part of the gritty.
Yeah, he's always gritty and he's always having a good time. So that was funny. Yeah. So once again, if you're listening, you heard Cade, but in the background, you got Carter back there he's up on somebody's back or something, doing the arm part of the gritty. So he's a trip. He's a good kid. And go back and listen to the interview we had with him last fall on Spotify or your favorite podcast platform. All right. I want to make this official real quick as we close out the show. So I want to officially invite Coach Harbaugh and Coach Jimbo Fisher to our tailgate next Saturday, since they, from what we're hearing, they will both be available. And Jimbo, you're buying.
Yeah. In 60 days, he's owed $19.2 million, and then he gets $7.2 million a year through the year 2031.
Yeah. So he kind of just hit the lottery
I
by.
really feel terrible for him.
Isn't that awful? That's awful.
Yeah.
But so we're ready for both of those guys to join us at the tailgate. They're definitely welcome. And we're going to come back next Wednesday at 8:30 to talk about some midweek. Kind of running out of some midweek shows this season. We got two more games, and of course we might have to make a little adjustment Thanksgiving, maybe not, depending on our schedule. We're going to preview that 3:30 game. Whoop, whoop, for 3:30. It's going to be a big tailgate for the Jackson family. We'll talk about that on Wednesday.
Yep.
And we'll maybe talk about some other big games coming up for the weekend.
Hey,
but before we move
on, a shout out to the Clemson men's basketball team. They won the Asheville Championship today, beating Davidson. They beat UAB Friday night and Davidson today. So those are two pretty good wins for NCAA tournament resume. And their next game is Friday night. I think they play Friday night, and then they play next Sunday at 1:00 against the Boise State Broncos, who also lost their football coach today. And a shout out to the men's soccer program that won the ACC championship in penalty kicks against the North Carolina Tar Heels.
ACC champs in football. Football.
If you need a high quality, forever lasting engraved item, check out everything at Diamond Edge Products. I'm telling you, people. They are officially licensed with Clemson University, and these would make great Christmas presents for your Clemson Tiger fans. And it's time. It's time to start buying. It's Black Friday sales are going on the TV right now, and it's November the 12th. So email Jalen, Jaylin, at diamondedgeproducts.com, and check out diamondedgeproducts.com for everything they have to offer. We appreciate their support.
Yeah, it is November 12th. It's my dad's birthday. Happy birthday, Dad. We hope you enjoyed the show. I'm sure he's watching. We're going to enjoy this win all week long. Once again, we're looking forward to seeing you guys on Wednesday. And we are appreciative of all of our military. Just one last time, thank you, service members, for what you do. And thanks again for checking us out each and every week. Don't forget to click subscribe on the Fun Fans Podcast YouTube channel, as well as your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on social media and please share. And on behalf of the Fun Fans Podcast, Jay Thriller Entertainment, the Fanboys Fangirls Podcast Network, and Bailey Jackson,
the best is yet to come. Go Tigers.
Buy stock now. Go Tigers.